there's always a smaller version of a bigger dream, right? And you can always scale a particular challenges you're facing down to size. An opportunity should not stop you from pursuing purpose, should not stop you from pursuing your calling, should not stop you from pursuing your why, because your why is there. So they didn't reject, your purpose. They didn't reject you as an individual. Probably they rejected an application, and you can always make another application next time. I was asked to speak about resilience, and I've been reflecting around what resilience means and what it means for me as a person and what it means for others as well, or probably what it means as I interact with other people. And I was thinking about resilience. I think resilience is a journey. I think resilience is a process. I think it's learned and built over time, that you can't just wake up and say that you're resilient or you've built resilience. Is built when you've been tested across time. And I think if I've been able to deal with maybe rejection or a failure today, or maybe somebody say no to me, is because I've been able to build up my resilience over time and over the years. And as I was thinking about resilience, or probably when you're interacting with people who probably don't understand your journey, or when you're interacting with people who are just meeting for the first time and you're talking about yourself or you're talking about your work, especially if you work in the area of change making or entrepreneurship or social entrepreneurship, and you're trying to narrate your struggle, your story, and some people are, failing to get it. I think it's maybe probably because they don't know why you do what you do. Maybe one of it, maybe that's it. And as people who do the kind of work that we do, maybe you're into change making, maybe you're into social entrepreneurship, maybe you're even into non-profit or you're an entrepreneur. Sometimes it's very difficult for people to understand our journey, or for sometimes the struggles that we go through. Especially if you're actually a proximate leader. A proximate leader is somebody who is actually close to the problem. That means you've actually faced this problem on the first hand. It's very, very difficult for people to understand, the why of what you do. And I think for me, whenever I think about resilience, I think about my journey, I think about my process, I think about where I'm coming from. Many of you would have been bored by my story by now, because you would have probably had it somewhere. And if you're not hearing it somewhere, you're hearing it again for the first time. That I was born in Makoko, which is one of the slum on the continent of Africa and Nigeria. And when I think about my journey, that I had to move from one slum to another slum, and losing my mom at 7, my dad losing everything at some point, and just having to move from one slum to another slum, and having to walk in the streets to like sell sweet and spaghetti, And when I think about those journey, and when I think about those moments, and I remember I've been able to navigate life and be able to walk out through my journey to get what I want, and people have been able to support me along that journey. When I think about the hoops I've been able to flip through during those moments, it's kind of like inspired me to keep going. Because I'm like, I haven't gotten to where I probably want to get to, even though I wasn't where I used to be. But the good thing is that I draw inspiration, I draw strength, from that journey and from that story, that it's okay, these people don't know my story, but then I shouldn't give up on my dreams and my pursuit to be better. I shouldn't give up, because if it is good for me, and if it is better for me, it's good for my family, it's good for my community, and there's enough to go around to inspire, my country, my continent, and maybe the world as well. And those are places where I draw my resilience from. So my resilience is drawn from my story most of the time. My resilience is drawn from the multitude of stories that I've lived. Because again, we've lived stories across time, right? We've lived stories multiple times, and my resilience is drawn from those stories and those journeys. Those hardships that I have to flip through every single day, or those hardships I had to scale through every single moment. And I'm like, maybe I don't know, there's even more hardship to face tomorrow or next tomorrow, or even in the future that I don't know of. But the truth is that I'm arming myself with the skills, with the resilience. We're talking about resilience, with the resilience to actually navigate, the hardship of the future. And I think, that's one reason. I think it's your story. I think another thing around building resilience or building up resilience is understanding and having a deep sense of why. That if you have a deep sense of why and a deep sense of self, you are able to navigate whatever challenges actually comes to you. That the fact that you're not getting an opportunity will not stop me from pursuing purpose, because there are multiple ways of actually pursuing purpose. There are multiple platforms to pursue purpose, and there are multiple fellowships or opportunities or scholarship to pursue purpose. So if one opportunity doesn't accept me, that doesn't mean another opportunity will not accept me. So I will not pause my purpose because an opportunity have not accepted me, or because a funding hasn't arrived yet. Because maybe, probably, obviously, funding is an extension to do the work, or to be able to do the work. It's like an amplifier to be able to do the work that we do. But if that doesn't come, or if those opportunities doesn't come, it doesn't mean that I will stop pursuing purpose, And I can think of ways to pursue purpose, right? I can think of, multitude of ways. And I think it's also this with like our mental notes as well. What are the mental notes we are building? I was watching a movie, and I think sometimes, maybe when we fail or when we are rejected, there's a need to again, I'm talking about exposure here, right? I'm talking about being exposed, the exposure therapy as well that I spoke about when I was talking about storytelling. Is the idea that, there's always a smaller version of a bigger dream, right? And you can always scale a particular challenges you're facing down to size. You can also scale it down so that you can able to walk your way through to the top. And I was watching a movie recently, and there was a guy who is like really, really a great rope dancer. Like, he could dance on the rope. Like, the rope is on the top and he could dance. And one day he fell down and was injured. And he could not dance on the rope again, but it was kind of like rehabilitating, and the doctor was kind of like rehabilitating him and supporting him through that process to get back and be able to climb the rope again. And in the process of rehabilitation, he said that he doesn't think he can climb again, that all he had known throughout his whole life is to be able to climb rope and do rope dance. That where did he want to start from again? That he doesn't think maybe he will be able to rope dance again. And that's like a mental note that he has created for himself, right? And, there was something the person said, when he finally rehabilitated and he went on the rope and he was about to do it, and then he fell on the ground again because his mental, the mental note came back again to say, like, you can't do this, and then he fell down and went to the ground again. And the person who was helping him, the doctor or the psychiatrist or the person who was supporting him through that process said something to him. He said, a rope doesn't have to be above the sky for you to climb it. And a rope doesn't have to be above everybody else cheering you up for you to climb it. That even though a rope is on the ground, you can actually walk through that rope on the ground as well. And then you build yourself back to the top. And that was a powerful note, that you don't have to be at the top for you to climb the rope. It doesn't have to be at the top. You don't have to be at the pinnacle of your career or of the work you do, or you don't have to be the most successful person in the world to be able to climb the rope. That there's always a smaller version of every bigger dream. And it's about actually exposing yourself, building yourself up to that way. It's scaling, the problem down to size, right? Maybe it's actually reflecting to think about, like, how can I make my application better? Do I need to start learning how to write, for example, so that I can really tell good stories? Are there opportunities that I can get locally within my environment? I don't have to get all the opportunities now, but I can build myself up towards the opportunities that I'm aiming at. And, and all of these are grounded in the resilience, right? It's grounded in the idea that, you can always build yourself up back to the top. And, an opportunity should not stop you from pursuing purpose, should not stop you from pursuing your calling, should not stop you from pursuing your why, because your why is there. So they didn't reject, your purpose. They didn't reject you as an individual. Probably they rejected an application, and you can always make another application next time. So I think, rejection is a perspective as well. And I want to put it out there that for me, that's the reason why I build up my resilience. And I think there's a need for you to have a little bit of like sense of self, right? And I could recall then I used to say that, who dare reject a star? That I'm a star, like, and a star, it's your loss, if you reject me. But again, come to think about it now, I'm like, actually, it's okay. There are many good people in the world, there are many brilliant people in the world, and it's okay, if they don't reject me. It's okay if we don't align today, that we might even align tomorrow, and maybe we might work together tomorrow. And sometimes, when people reject me, I kind of like send them a very kind email or a nice email, even though on the other end, I'm angry and I'm pissed and I really want to break things, I need to like probably just regulate my emotion and send him a kind email, and then I wake up the next day and I'm like, I'll keep going. So I think when you have a purpose, I think rejection will probably get to you, but it won't get to you for so long because your purpose is actually bigger than your rejection. Your purpose is bigger than your rejection, is bigger than, even though the platform will amplify your work. When you keep pursuing purpose, then opportunities sometimes, will revolve around you. And I said something that we don't all have to get the same opportunities. We don't have to get maybe $1 Washington fellowship. We don't have to get maybe the same scholarship. Maybe there are other opportunities that we all can get. There are different opportunities that we can actually access in the world. There are multiple ways of building, right? There are multiple ways of growing, and we can all find ways as we continue to walk through our journey, as we continue to shine our light. People then will invite us to the room, Yeah, and I think that if you're also in the position of actually reviewing an application, you probably also would reject people as well. And and I try to put my, the people who are reviewing into my shoe as well. And I'm like, okay, it's probably would have been the best decision. It would have been a tough decision. But what I'll probably not do is to submit a rubbish application, to be rejected as well. I would have put in the work. And I think, it's always it's very painful when you don't get the opportunity. And I also think that, when you think about resilience as well, or when you think about, rejection, it's actually putting things into perspective, right? It's putting things into reflecting and thinking about what went wrong, And if you think that nothing went wrong, maybe you can use that application to apply for something else. So resilience it's not just built in one day. I also think it's built over time, like I said, over the years. And if you're probably in your 20, I don't like giving such advice, but if you're probably in your 20s, I mean, I just went through my 20s. I'm now 30 and probably gonna turn 31 in the next couple of months. And one of the things that I know I did in my 20s, and I and my cousin actually did this, we used to call it the law of mass. And I think it helped us to build our resilience and our muscle for rejection. We didn't even know the rejection we would get in the future, which is something I'm going to share later on. But one of the things we did was that we were applying for as many opportunities as possible. We were learning quickly. We weren't submitting rubbish application. We were writing really good application, write as much as possible. And as we were writing, our writing skills were developing. As we were writing those applications and getting rejected, we were getting rapid feedback. We were getting feedback rapidly. Sometimes if they don't give us feedback, we give ourselves feedback. That they don't give you feedback doesn't mean you should not reflect and give yourself feedback and see what you can actually adjust in your application or in the process of what you're applying to, or maybe in an interview, or maybe in a speech, or maybe in your art, right? And we were, applying for multiple things, we apply for multiple applications, we'll be rejected. But what we noticed that we're learning really, really quickly, and we're building our resilience for future opportunities. So that when we are rejected next time, we know that we can handle it. And that was one of the ways we're able to build up our resilience, because resilience is also building up, right? Building up. And I know that is very, very hard to take. So then we'll apply for multiple things, and maybe we'll get one that it's actually 1 year we need to actually try by the time to get an opportunity. But I don't do that again because I don't think that's a good strategy. But when I was 20, that was a really good strategy. But now I actually have to apply for things that I really want and put in my energy, full energy into it. I mean, I used to put my energy there back in the days, but now I think I need to conserve my energy for so many other things. So probably I'll have to make sure I've read it, and I'm very sure I want to apply and put all my heart to apply for the opportunity as well. But that was one of the ways we're able to build up our resilience. We're exposing ourselves, to the rejection, so that we can learn quickly on how to deal with the rejection as well. And I think that's one way that I and my cousin then built our resilience. And we never knew that there are going to be other multiple rejections we will get. I mean, I recently, got into the One Young World, scholarship, got the One Young World, got the Impact AI scholarship by Brandtech to attend the One Young World Summit in Montreal in Canada. And, when I think about the process of when I've been applying for One Young World, actually I've been applying to One Young World since 2019. And I think from 2019 to 2024, I've actually applied for about 12 different scholarships to attend One Young World Summit or participate in One Young World programming. And, they all came back with rejections, right? And when I looked at why is it that I'm applying every year since 2019? Like, why? When I looked at it and look at every application that I've submitted, some have changed. Somebody said, like, why did you get in this time around? And I'm like, I can't really tell you this is why I got in this time around, because even the previous applications I've submitted, I think they were really good application. I think they were really solid application. What makes the difference was that I didn't stop pursuing purpose. I think that's what makes the difference. I kept showing up. Even though I'm 30 and maybe the opportunity might end at 30, I'm like, I will keep showing up until the last minute, because I understand that my purpose is bigger than any rejection. And then it kept changing, because I remember that we started the project I run, Skills Bootcamp, as just a physical bootcamp where young people have access to 21st century skills and co-create solutions to the problem they face. And then it evolved over time, where partners started running it, where volunteers started running it across different states. It grew from when I applied in 2019. As of 2019, we were just in like about one state. And it has grown to like reaching 11 states. And that's what it means to like, let your results be, let your impact speaks for you. Let your results speaks for you. And, and I kept building over the years and over time. Built, reached 12 states, built like partner base of over, 10, growing to 20 or more, reaching about 8,000, 500 plus young people, and built an edtech platform as well recently to actually democratize that work to even reach more people as well, in the South communities in Africa. And when the opportunity came, because I got an AI scholarship, and I was already thinking about like, how do I use AI to actually scale my work? How do I use generative AI to scale my work? And when that scholarship came, I was like, this is my scholarship and I'm going to get it. And it means that our work can evolve and change, and the opportunity at the right time would come for our work. The opportunity at the right time is what we need for the work, for us to get the work to the next level. And I think the scholarship I got is what I needed at the time. It's what I needed now. So, it's that idea of building, right? You should, when we think about building or when we think about scale, now I'm talking entrepreneurship or social entrepreneurship terms. When we talk about building, actually, or when we talk about scaling, scale is actually hanging in there, right? That you would hang in there until an opportunity arrives. That you would do the smallest version of what you're building until an bigger opportunity arrives. And, hanging in there means, even though you're getting rejected, you're hanging in there until one opportunity comes and says yes to you. Even though you're not getting the funding that you need to scale your work, you're hanging in there until the bigger funding arrives. Even though that you're telling your story on social media and nobody's following or nobody's listening, that the goal is not virality, but visibility. That you just want people to know about your work, and people are actually watching, and when the opportunity comes, they will be like, we've been reading your work for so time, right? And also, you're also building the skills for the future. Maybe you're not even ready for that opportunity yet, but you've been able to build experience, you've been able to build skills, you've been able to build credence, that when you get into the room, you have so many things to share because you have built up yourself for that opportunity. And I think that is incredible and that is powerful. And when you look back, you know why you're going through that challenges and why you're going through that problem as well. And I think by reminding ourselves of that, it's also ways we can build resilience. Because I could recall in 2018 and 2019 when I was like actually being depressed that I did not have anything, that I don't even have money. And one of the things that I said to myself is that it's going to be better. That, me reflecting on like the opportunities, the sacrifice of the future is made in the present. That the future would be better, that my opportunity would come, that whatever everybody is getting today, they might be getting it and I'm happy for them, that my turn will also come. And I think that's where, resilience also comes from, is actually seeing and knowing that people have done it before, that it's also possible that you do it as well. And it's also very important to tell yourself the truth and weigh your skills as well. Like, what skills do I have? Do I actually really have the skills to get to this level? And if you think you don't have the skills, then you can build up your skills to get to that level of where you are going to. And I think that's why it's important for us to tell ourselves the truth as well, as we apply for opportunities as well, that do I actually have the capability? Or you can try and then learn, and then if you see your mistakes, you learn and build up, make up for your mistakes, and then you keep building like that. But there's something about hanging in there. It's something that I've learned, and I'm like, because clarity happens over time, right? Clarity happens only when we hang in there, and then you're able to understand the context of even your work. You're able to understand the problem better. You're even able to understand your story better, and then you're even more prepared for an opportunity when it arises. I've seen people that they get money and they're like, okay, now I think I don't know how to use the money, or I don't know how to spend this money. So, and also it helps you build, credence, and also like, that courage to continue to do the work. And then I'm like, when your why is big, you're able to sustain yourself. Like, we've not really, like, in my organization, it's not that we've made so much money or we've, received so many grants like that. But one of the things that I've learned is that it's also leadership, right? Resilience is leadership. Leadership is also sustainability. The idea that, you can build you don't need all the resources in the world to build up something, even though you need resources to scale that work, even though you need resources to amplify that work, that you don't need everything in the world to build something. I've seen people who have raised about $2 million or $3 million or even $10 million or $100 million. And at the end of the day, their initiative died. And you're wondering, why did that initiative die? It's because of leadership. That leadership is actually sustainability. There is something about being close to the problem and having a deep sense of why. That drives it, that no matter the funding, that even if funding doesn't come, I would actually die solving this problem. I would die working towards this cause that I want to solve. And there's something powerful about that. Like, and maybe the money would come. And if the money comes, you're even able to implement better projects, or even able to implement in a better way because you've learned through the journey. So leadership is sustainability, and that's why I'm like challenging organizations, not just to invest and give money to the best innovative projects. I mean, innovative projects are good. We need that in the world today. But to also give funding on the basis of leadership, on the basis of being close to the problem, on the basis of resilience, being able to overcome adversities as well, because you will be tested. It's not about how grand your idea is. That you should not just give money to innovation. You can give money to innovation, but you should also give money to leadership as well. It's something that I'm telling people, like, you need to give money to leadership. That leadership in itself is sustainability. There are people that, despite the fact that they face obstacles towards executing the project, they will always find a way to grow the project and continue to innovate and create amazing projects. So we need to invest in those leaders as well. That they might not have the grand ideas in the grand scheme of things, but they can build up those ideas. That by supporting their leadership, by providing this and supporting them with the necessary funding, they can catalyze growth and they can also catalyze change. I just think that it's important for me to point that out. It's important for me to mention that, because there might probably be a funder actually watching this video and thinking, okay, I think that's kind of like, that's a perspective I want to hear, right? So that's why I'm actually putting that out there and also sharing this as well. And so I think that's something I also want to point out or talk about, that building and scaling and creating change requires hanging in there. And scale is different from growth. It's different from the idea of like there's an increment in numbers. Like there's like, we've reached 50,000 people in numbers without the depth of the work. That you can scale deep, that is depth, and you can also scale up, that is in terms of reach and numbers. And the scale can lead to growth, but scale is actually tweaking something in your intervention, tweaking something in the work that you do, that automatically scale will happen and the number increases because you've actually tweaked something in your intervention and the work that you do, or in the innovation of the work that you do. So it could be like, creating an edtech platform that ensures that an educator can actually reach more students in underserved communities, right? That could be scale. You've just tweaked something, you've solved a particular problem, tweaked something, and then you allow scale to happen, right? So and again, all of this comes from clarity. It wouldn't come if I say that I've gotten rejected today, I've gotten one rejection and I want to stop this work. I understand there might be multiple reasons for stopping the work, which is okay and which is valid, especially for we young people who are trying to make change in our community and trying to make money for ourselves as well. So again, I'm just like trying to say this based on my own experience around like how I have built resilience over the time, that resilience actually should not stop you from pursuing purpose. That resilience is also, the awareness and the understanding of who you are, the understanding of the rejection, the understanding of that rejection will not stop you from building and creating. And I think that's something I want to talk about in terms of resilience as well, that, we build the resilience when we expose ourselves to the hardest things that we can face. I'm not the one that be scared of I'm not going to create something, even if people say that, oh, I don't think you can get it, I will still try it. And if I fail, the least that happens to me is that I actually learn. And, rejection, and the way I also see it, like I said, I used to put my rejection into perspective, right? Because I know there's a place I'm going to and there's a goal that I want to achieve. And there's actually it's not just one way, right, to achieve that goal. It's not just one particular opportunity to actually achieve that goal. And I think it also pushes me, right? Rejection pushes me to do some things that I don't think I can do. And I intentionally actually sometimes put myself in that situation. Last year, I think I was, trying to stay in the UK, and I was looking for an opportunity to stay. And I applied for jobs that could sponsor me, they started coming up with rejections. And I started applying for I was like, okay, what can I do now? Let me, apply for, let me start applying for other things. So I went through the Founders Innovators Visa to stay in the UK. I did, a full-blown business plan. It took me nearly 5 months. I did a full-blown business plan. I, did a full-blown market research in 2-3 weeks. I was speaking to people, I was doing my research, I was going online, I was using graphs. I was totally burnt out, and I had a full-time job, I had an NGO I was running. It was a crazy moment for me. And after doing all of those things, did an interview with the people at my endorsement body, did all of sorts, 5 months, to come up with all my application and to do my final submission. And I paid, about £1,200. I, paid money and all of those things. And January, I think around January 15, he came back with a rejection. And before then, I already started also global talent research. I gathered about 1,222 worth of documents to submit for a global talent research application. Did all my paper, got my references, got everything. And a week later, 5 days later, that came in January 15. 4 or 5 days later, that rejection also came in, right? And I was like, okay, this is interesting. And I remember somebody called me on January 19, and they were like, somebody that I really, really admire. They were like, well, maybe you can try, the Global Talent Tech as well. And immediately I got involved on the Global Talent Tech, and my visa was expiring. I think I had only about 6 weeks left for my visa to expire as of then. And, I jumped into that as well, right? Immediately I started it already. I started building on my portfolio, doing my research, and as of then I said I'm going to launch an edtech platform as well to ensure that displaced young people and people in underserved communities, whether in Nigeria or Africa or in the UK, can have access to 21st century skills. And I did the whole tech thing, and also that came back as well with a rejection. When that rejection came back, I had only about 2 weeks or 3 weeks left to leave the UK. And I'm going to tell that story another day. I'm not going to tell it now. But one of the things that I learned from that process was that every single rejection created an avenue for me in insight. Looking back now, I've overcome that situation, but actually looking back now, they created an opportunity for me. So for example, the application for the Founders Innovators Visa that I was rejected for to stay in the UK, that application was what I used to apply to the London Business School Pre-Accelerator program for the brightest minds in London. That was what I used to apply for the London Business School Pre-Accelerator, and I got in. In fact, when the rejection for the Global Talent Tech came, I was already in that program at the London Business School, and I could recall that the night of that rejection, that night of the day I got that rejection for the Global Talent Tech, that night I had a session at the London Business School and also had a pitch. But I went ahead and I showed up and I pitched. And that's it, it's about showing up, right? It's the fortitude, it's building your mental resilience. And I think I built that by exposing myself over the time and getting rejected from multiple things that I've applied to. And I went and I went ahead, but it created another opportunity for me. For global talent research, where I submitted about 1,022 documents, naturally, I would have sat down and gathered my portfolio in one document. But I did, because I applied for global talent research. And that became my portfolio to apply for other things. There was an opportunity I got around again this year in February, that it was that portfolio that I submitted, and multiple other opportunities I've applied to where I submitted that portfolio. I wouldn't have had that portfolio if I didn't apply for it. I also had the chance to look back at my CV and review my CV for that particular opportunity, and that CV became the CV that I submitted for an opportunity that I got, fully funded opportunity that I got, to attend a summer school in Cambridge, organized by the Center of Nepalese Studies in Cambridge, at the University of Cambridge. And I went for that summer school, right? And it was the CV that I wrote for my global talent research that I submitted. So again, rejections gives us an opportunity to build and create. But if we don't reflect, if we don't see rejection as perspective, if we don't have that perspective, resilience is perspective as well, right? It's sitting down and going back and looking back. That actually did I really automatically fail? That there's wins in the process. That win doesn't necessarily have to be an outcome. The outcomes are great for measurement, but sometimes process are also great for measurement as well, and measuring where we are going to. So I used the same thing, and I got that opportunity as well. And even in the face of rejection, even in the face of adversities, that opportunities are opening up for me. That God is kind to me in getting those opportunities. And then the last one for tech, right? I'm like, whether I get this or not, I'm going to start building the edtech platform. That whether that happens or not, that rejection will never stop me from building and creating. But that also allowed me to reflect on my journey as an edtech leader and to start knowing what to start building for future opportunities and for taking advantage of edtech. I was able to understand the funding within the edtech sector, within the AI sector. I was able to start learning about things within that sector and within that area. I was able to dig into research, and those research actually helped my work. And now the edtech platform is now launched. If I didn't get rejected for that, I don't know, maybe the edtech platform would have been launched by now. And these are also the things that contributed to getting the Empathy High Scholarship to attend the One Young World Summit as well, because I was able to build upon those applications as well. And I could recall that, during those moments as well, people were also reaching out to me for support, and I said yes to many of those things, because one of the ways to also overcome what you're going through is to also, serve people. The greatest way to overcome the challenges you're going through is to serve, because it then helps you, it then grounds you. That's the way you can actually move towards those things as well. And also there was also another opportunity I applied during that time. It was like $100,000 grant. I think it was Oceanesi Fellowship. I don't know how they pronounce it, but it's like Oceanesi Fellowship. And I applied to it, and I also submitted like my idea for AI, using generative AI, creating different models. I wrote those ideas there, and it got rejected, right? And as part of the application also were the application that I used to improve my One Young World Summit application as well, and to get the Brand Tech Empathy High Scholarship. That actually, in insights, that being rejected is an opportunity to create, it's an opportunity to build, and it's an opportunity to innovate. That the beginning of innovation is also rejection, and it's acceptance, and it's the humility to say that I don't know everything and I'm ready to build again. So rejection gives you an opportunity to build. Rejection gives you an opportunity to create. And I think those are ways I've been able to actually build resilience over time. It's actually putting things into, perspective. And I was thinking as well, when I was going through all of those rejections, because there were multiple things that happened that I really don't want to talk about. When I was going through all of those processes, I had a reflection, and it's the idea that actually grieving is a privilege, right? I have never seen it as that, but I started seeing that grieving is a privilege, because I wanted to grieve at the time, but I could not grieve. I lost my mom when I was 7, and I was trying to grieve that moment, but I could not even grieve. And from my reflection, I was talking to a friend, and from our reflection, I was like, actually, grieving is a privilege. And some of us who have maybe lost one or two of our parents, or some of us, who have gone through a lot of hardship and we have to overcome those hardship, is that we have to actually work hard and work through our grief every single day. And I had to notice that I had to work hard through my grief. I had to journey through my grief. I had to extremely work hard and work hard and work hard and work hard, through my grief. And that's the only way I've, survived through the grief as well. And I'm thinking that actually grieving is actually a privilege. And I hope someday I would find time to actually sit down and grieve, maybe if the opportunity arises. But again, I think, the idea is to keep working and walking through that journey and learning through that journey and improving through that journey until you get what you want. And then when you get what you want again, it's day one again. You start all over again. You're like, it's day one, it's day one. Every day is day one. Every day is day one. Every day is an opportunity to be and become. Every day is an opportunity to create something. Every day is an opportunity to be the best version of yourself. That you're not competing against other people, that you're actually competing with yourself and who you were yesterday, not somebody else's. And, I think those are the things I will share. I think one last thing that I'm going to share as I talk about resilience is the power of community. And it's something that I want to share, that actually storytelling is actually community, right? And I think it's actually building community of people that you can trust, building community of people that can support you. That when we sit together and tell the stories of our rejections, it kind of grounds us and help us overcome challenges. That if my friend can actually overcome that challenge, it's possible that I can do that as well. And it's only when we have conversation with each other, we can actually build the resilience to forge ahead to achieve other goals. So we need to build that community, have community of friends, have community of people that can actually support you, that can listen to you. I'm not talking about somebody who you will share something with and at the end of the day they use it against you. I'm actually talking about people who can actually really, really, really listen to you, and then you can share, and then they can also maybe, a circle where you can share with each other, and then you can build a fortitude for the future. And I think those are the things that I'm going to say, and those are the things I'm going to share. And I wish you best of luck in your personal and professional development journey. Thank you.